Before we begin, I literally just want to make it clear that, I almost just died. I was putting on my setting powder, and I guess there was an eyelash of mine that was stuck to my brush. I don't know if you can see this. I don't think you're going to be able to see it because it's so tiny. But I genuinely felt like I was going blind in one eye. It was a struggle, but we're here. We made it. The top of my lip is sweating. But yeah, we're here, and hopefully we get through this in one piece. So hello, hi, how are you? My name is Gabby. Welcome and welcome back to my channel if you have been here before. And as per the title of the video, we're going to be talking about cuties today. I want to say that I'm late, but I'm just going to say that I am right on time to discuss what I want to discuss. So I want to say that I was aware of the cutie scandal when it was happening, but I really wasn't. It was 2020, it was COVID. I was living in Toronto and I was in a deep state of depression. So I really can't tell you what was going on during that time, let alone with cuties, but I have to admit I heard the whispers. One thing about me is I'm not going to talk about something if I'm not really interested in it, or if it's a piece of media, I'm not going to talk about it if I haven't seen it. The good thing is, however, we live in the 21st century and the internet is forever. So it took nothing for me to go back in time and do a little digging, and baby, I think we need to look into the definition of moral panic. Because that'll be very, very pertinent to this video. So I have 25 pages of notes. Ridiculous, I know, and I'm definitely not going to get through the entire 25 pages of notes within the course of this video, because then it would be 2 hours long. I hope that is not like subtle foreshadowing. But first off, I'm thinking of like the structure of how I want to structure it, which is something I should have done off camera. But anyways, I want to talk about the director and why she chose to make this film. And then I am going to go into the film itself. So instead of like a quick summary, I think it'll be really, really interesting to go scene by scene, and well, not scene by scene, but the most important scenes I think that make up this film, and kind of discuss them a little bit, and how they feed into each other and how they feed into the narrative. And then at the end, I'm going to address some of the comments that I have seen being made about the film. Most of which, before it came out, there are a lot of YouTube videos where you have these creators talking about the film and talking about a film that they've never seen, and encouraging people to criticize the film without even seeing it. And I'm not the most intellectual person in the world, but having an opinion about something that you have never seen, sometimes it works. But I think at the end of the day, especially when discussing something like this, to the point where, from what I saw, everybody was calling this film CP. I'm not going to say the word because it's probably on YouTube. But I think promoting that kind of rhetoric is dangerous, because that's not what this is. I don't agree with all of the choices that the director made. However, I do think that there was a message that she was trying to portray. And we can be critical of something and you can like something and still be critical of it. So hopefully this video doesn't end up being like 2 hours long. I will try my best to let it not get to that point. On September 15th, 2020, the director of Cuties, Maimouna Doucouré, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, penned an op-ed in the Washington Post about why she wrote and directed Cuties. I'm debating whether or not I should just read the entire thing, but I'll do it because I think it's important. I think it's important to get her perspective. If worse comes to worse, and this video is too damn long, I'll edit out certain parts, but these are the words from the director herself. I was at a community event in Paris a few years ago when a group of young girls came on the stage dressed and dancing in a very risque way. They were only 11 years old and their performance was shocking. Curious to understand what was happening on that platform, I spent the next year and a half interviewing more than 110 and 11-year-old girls across the city. The result was my movie, Mignon, or Cuties in English. I wanted to make a film in the hope of starting a conversation about the sexualization of children. The movie has certainly started a debate, though not the one that I intended. Puberty is such a confusing time. You are still a child with all that wonderful naivete, shoot, naivete and innocence, but your body is changing and you're self-conscious and curious about its impact on others all at the same time. The stories that the girls I spoke to shared with me were remarkably similar. They saw that the sexier a woman is on Instagram or TikTok, the more likes she gets. They tried to imitate that sexuality in the belief that it would make them more popular. Spend an hour on social media and you'll see preteens, often in makeup, pouting their lips and strutting their stuff as if they were grown women. The problem, of course, is that they are not grown women and they don't realize what they're doing. They construct their self-esteem based on social media likes and the number of followers they have. To see these youngsters put so much pressure on themselves so early was heartbreaking. Their insights and experiences with social media informed Cuties. The main character in the film is an 11-year-old girl called Ami, whose family, like mine, came from Senegal and lives in Paris. Frustrated by her mother's failure to take control of her own life, Ami decides to seek freedom by joining a clique of girls at school who are preparing to enter a local dance contest and design increasingly risque routines copying what they've seen on their phones. The girls don't have the maturity, however, to realize what their gestures and dance moves look like to the audience. It is only in seeing the shock on parents' faces in the audience and at the same time thinking of what her mother is going through that Ami realizes that these dance routines bring no freedom at all. She chooses her own path, balancing her family's traditional roots and the more liberal city in which she lives. Some people have found certain scenes in my film uncomfortable to watch, but if one really listens to 11-year-old girls, their lives are uncomfortable. We, as adults, have not given children the tools to grow up healthy in our society. I wanted to open people's eyes to what's truly happening in schools and on social media, focusing them to confront images of young girls made up, dressed up, and dancing suggestively to imitate their favorite pop icon. I wanted adults to spend 96 minutes seeing the world through the eyes of an 11-year-old girl as she lives 24 hours a day. These scenes can be hard to watch, but are no less true as a result. Like most 11 and 12-year-olds, our actors in the film had already seen these types of dances and more. Despite this, during filming, we were extremely mindful of their age. A trained counselor was present on set. There was no nudity except for a 1-second shot in which the main characters see the exposed of an actress over 18 while watching a video of a dance routine on a grainy mobile screen. The project was even approved by the French government's child protection authorities. This film is my own story. All my life, I have juggled two cultures, Senegalese and French. As a result, people often ask me about the oppression of women in more traditional societies, and I always ask, but isn't the objectification of women's bodies in Western Europe and the United States another kind of oppression? When girls feel so judged at such a young age, how much freedom will they ever truly have in life? And that's why I made Cuties, to start a debate about the sexualization of children in society today so that maybe, just maybe, politicians, artists, parents, and educators could work together to make a change that will benefit children for generations to come. It's my sincerest hope that this conversation doesn't become so difficult that it too gets caught up in today's cancel culture. So there you have it. Those are the words of Maimouna Doucouré. I really hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Those are her words about why she made the film. I actually read this piece before I watch the film and before I watch other YouTubers' takes about the film. I think what's really important to note here is that the director has done her due diligence, I think. And I am I'm saying this in the chronological order of which I did this. As in, I read the op-ed and then I watched the YouTuber's comments and then I went in to watch the actual film. The film's main character, Ami, 11-year-old immigrant coming from Senegal to Paris, which is basically the story of Doucouré. She is a French Senegalese immigrant. I appreciate the fact that she spoke directly to 11-year-old girls about their own experiences instead of relying on third-party knowledge. She also consulted with the French Child Protection Agency. There was a psychiatrist on set, and she made sure to build rapport with those young girls so that they would feel empowered in having their voices heard, especially with the things that they were going to be doing on set. So mind you, I haven't even watched the film yet. This is just background knowledge, and at this point it is totally opposite as to what I do when approaching these kinds of things. Regularly, I go in blind because I don't want anyone's opinion informing mine before I have the chance to process for myself. This time was different because y'all were saying that this shit is CP. I'm gonna say CP. I try not to inflict any harm onto myself. So when I heard that, I said, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be watching this. Come to find out, the majority of y'all making those videos calling it that hadn't only had you not watched the film. And I am so very sorry. Maybe this is just me, but I am not going to fully trust the opinion of a white person who is critiquing the work of a French Senegalese Muslim Black woman about a story dealing with the challenges that a French Senegalese Black 11-year-old girl has to face. I'm just not doing it. I then stumbled upon two videos, one by For Harriet and the other by Khadija Mbao. Not only had they actually seen the film, they had a different take. Khadija, as a Gambian Muslim immigrant woman, said that she felt 100% represented by the film and loved it as well. Now, as both women mentioned, I personally do not agree with all of the directorial choices that were made in this film. But I am going to be 100% honest. At no point did I feel as though I was watching CP. Did some scenes make me uncomfortable? Yes. Did I have to sit with that discomfort and interrogate why I was feeling the way that I was feeling, seeing as I come from a Caribbean island that has carnival each year and the kids be doing worse shit than what was shown in this movie? Yes. So these are some of the questions and thoughts that I've had while watching the film, and we'll delve deeper into it. But for now, I think I want to talk about the actual substance and the content of Cuties, something that I didn't really see done back in when did this movie come out? 2020, when everybody was just making reactionary videos about it. And I also do think that 2020 is such a different time than 2025. But either way, let's get into the actual film. Let's discuss Cuties. So at the start of the film, we see Ami, her siblings, and her mother. They have just moved into this new apartment, and there's this empty bedroom that Ami and her brother are fighting over. And the mom says to, leave it. And then immediately after that scene, we are taken to a mosque full of Muslim women, and they are praying. Right off the bat, you can see that Ami is like looking around and isn't quite... Not that she's not understanding what's happening. I don't even think that it's that she's uncomfortable. She's just disinterested based on the way that she looks. And then in like one of the next scenes after that, Ami finds herself in the laundry room of this building, which is where she meets Angelica for the first time. Now, hold on. I need to double check if the girl's name is Angelica or Angelique. Let me wait 1 second. Her name is Angelica. But either way, this is where Ami meets Angelica for the first time. We would later then come to find out that Angelica is the head of is the de facto head of the Cuties, which is the name of the dance group that she eventually joins. You are going to hear me say this a lot over the course of the video, but Maimouna Doucouré, they could never make me hate you. And let me tell y'all why. When Ami sees Angelica, when she sees her for the first time, it is in this laundry room, and Angelica is playing music, she's dancing, and she's even straightening her hair on an ironing board. Just the kind of stupid shit that you would expect an 11-year-old to try at least once. And what I love about this scene, in conjunction with the one that came before, is that it sets the tone for the entire film very, very well. In one setting, we have Ami in this room with her auntie. And if my memory serves me correctly, in this room, they're talking about how women have to be pious, how there will be much more women in hell than men, how evil is shown in scantily dressed women, modesty, and basically being fearful of what you teach children, which would be that's like the foreshadowing in this film that's presented right off the bat. So to hear that, and then in the very next scene we see Angelica dancing and she looks so happy and she's having fun, and in the previous scene none of those women had a smile on their face. In that moment, she's basically the embodiment of everything that those women were preaching against. And obviously that is going to have a big impact on Ami. Now, I'm going to get on this further on in the video, but this would be a good time to discuss, to begin the discussion on the dancing and the clothing in the film, which a lot of people had an issue with. Are there scenes of the girls dancing that makes me uncomfortable? Yes. One scene in particular, and we'll talk about it when we get there, but as someone who grew up in the Caribbean and, as I mentioned before, has carnival once a year, the dancing in that scene was literally, in this particular scene, this first scene that I'm talking about, it really wasn't nothing. And and while watching it, I said, this can't be what the girls are clutching their pearls over. Could her shirt have been 2 inches longer? Yeah, but this could not be the that y'all were going on and on and on about. And I want to make something clear, because there always seems to be this misconception when talking about Caribbean culture, because it's not a free-for-all. I actually find it quite fascinating that we can have carnival and then we are very puritanical as a culture and a society. Like, Caribbean people will be the first ones to call a young girl fast for nothing at all, but will say nothing to their sons on the same subject, which is why we have a lot of what we have in Caribbean culture. But anyways, that is not this video. I digress. Let us get back to talking about Ami. So we get more and more integrated into her home life. There's this one scene in particular where her mom is just standing in front of that empty room in their home, and Ami is just watching her, and the mother, her name is Mariam. I'm not going to call her Miriam. It's French. I'm going to call her Mariam because that's how they call it in the film. And then Mariam, after she stands and is watching this room for a length of time, she locks the door, and she is so much in her own world that she doesn't notice Ami watching her, and she then goes to bed. Then we soon find out that Ami's father, who is still currently in Senegal, has taken a second wife and is bringing her to France. So we get to see scenes like that where the mom is literally suffering in silence. So then we get this scene, and I think that this is one of the most defining scenes in the story. Ami is in her mother's room with her shirt rolled up to her belly button, and she's dancing. And to me, that represented girlhood, because we have all at one point thought that we were grown and we have made a makeshift crop top and then we danced in our rooms when no one was watching. I think that's something that like almost everyone has experienced at least once. And then so Ami hears her mom and auntie coming into the room, and she obviously does not want them to see her dressed how she's dressed. So she runs and hides under the bed. And this is where I start to get upset because this, in my opinion, is one of the most uncomfortable scenes in the movie. I cried a little bit, and most of the other reviews and commentaries that I watched about it, they didn't mention this scene at all. At all. And I want to say this again. I don't agree with all of the directorial choices that were made in this film, but if we're going to talk about it, we need to talk about it correctly and tactfully, right? So we are watching all of this go down from Ami's perspective. So she's under the bed, and because of her perspective, the only thing that we're seeing are the feet, because she's under the bed, she's seeing the auntie and her mom's feet. I initially got it wrong because I thought that Mariam had a friend come over and was telling this friend about the second wife. But in actuality, the auntie was forcing Mariam to call people and tell them this information, and call these people and tell them, hello, my husband is marrying another woman. I think the fact that we saw it from Ami's perspective made the situation even more heartbreaking. The actors also did a phenomenal job, by the way. I haven't really heard of anyone speak about the actors in this film, to be quite frank. But Mariam's feet are literally shaking. They're shaking, and you can also hear the tears in her voice, and Auntie just tells her to call someone else, and Mariam says no because obviously it is difficult for her, which is when the aunt says, this is your duty and you need to be a real woman. The dissertations I could write on this scene and that line alone, because at that point in the film, I'm crying, Mariam is crying, and Ami is crying. The good and maybe not so good thing about this film is that even though the messaging is clear, the story leaves a lot of room for interpretation. Everything isn't spelt out and handed to the viewer on a silver platter, and what I took from that scene to mean is there we have Ami, an 11-year-old girl, learning that this is what it means to be a woman. Like, this is one of the first times that she's confronted with womanhood in the film. So to her, it basically means sucking salt and going along with whatever, even though it makes you incredibly sad and it makes you incredibly unhappy. Mariam was literally after the aunt left her. I don't know the name of the auntie. I don't know if it was ever mentioned, so I'm just gonna keep referring to her as auntie. But after auntie leaves the room, Mariam is sat there and is literally beating herself. You can hear her slapping herself. You can hear her boxing herself, and she's beating herself into submission. Before she had to get on another call and pretend to be jovial about her husband marrying another woman, saying, oh, I hope their union is blessed. Meanwhile, her daughter is hearing all of this and is slowly building up resentment towards everybody in this family, especially the daddy. But she is building up this slow hatred for the people in this family, and it's going to become more apparent. It's going to be quiet, but it'll be more apparent throughout the film. And also, though I do not believe in support all women, because I really do believe that some of you bitches are dumb, I found it actually deplorable that Auntie just left Mariam there crying in that bedroom with not a lick of comfort. And I recognize that she herself has been indoctrinated to the max, but come on, we're supposed to want better for people than we had for ourselves. Also, before I continue, I just need to make it clear that I won't be touching heavily or at all really on the topic of religion in this video. One, because I don't think it's necessary, and two, I don't think the ideas presented by religion in the film are inherent to Islam. The family, everyone is Muslim. I understand that Dukulé pulls from being Muslim herself. I respect it. And although I am not religious, I grew up in the Christian church. I went to Methodist and Catholic primary and high schools growing up, church on Sunday, the entire shebang. And remember how at the beginning of the video I said that Caribbean culture is very, puritanical? Yes, because according to recent statistics, I think they said like 97% of the region identifies as Christian. They will call you a Jezebel before you're even old enough to know what it means. So I won't be focusing on the religious aspect. And though the dad taking another wife is inherent to the story, it only matters insofar as the way that decision impacts the women in the story. So I won't be going into polygamy either, because that is a whole other can of worms. Basis of what I'm trying to say is that Islam is not the only religion that touts these ideas about women, polygamy aside, but the whole being pious, it's not an Islam exclusive thing, right? So I don't think it's necessary to touch on. I know Christianity, and that's mostly the same. But back to Ami. If I'm her and I'm seeing that this is what your womanhood looks like and acts like, then of course I am going to do everything conceivable, like everything possible, to avoid that being my reality. I wouldn't want to end up like my mother either if I were her, and I would take all of the steps to make sure that I don't. And that includes doing all of the things that you told me not to do, right? Another thing is, I really love when in movies or books that you can tell that this character had a life before this story began. Like, we are not just here for 300 pages or an hour and a half, but you have been here before and you will be here after. And that's what I get with Ami. We get scenes where it's evident that she, at 11 years old, has been a caretaker for her siblings. And I don't mean just helping out. I mean, like, she has been actively parenting these kids. After that scene with the mother and the grandmother, we see Ami in the supermarket with both children. She has two little brothers. One of them might be like toddler age. No, he's not not even toddler. One of them is like a baby, and the other one might be like 4 or 5, right? But she's doing grocery shopping. No mother in sight, and pushing these two children in a cart. And here's the thing. I could very well make the argument that when talking about the exploitation of young girls, our minds automatically veer to the sexual, which of course it does, but no one wants to talk about the exploitation of eldest daughters by their parents, especially in immigrant households. Y'all are fine with that. Y'all are fine about Y'all are fine about the adultification of young girls when it comes to domestic labor, but you are not. But there's a difference in it for you. You're fine with that adultification, but the adultification that comes with sexual maturity, you're not okay with, and I'm not okay with that. None of us should be okay with that. But we should be as equally as upset about the adultification of young girls and doing domestic labor in their households, in their homes. And here's the thing, like, y'all might not agree with me, but I think I had this debate with this guy the other day. I don't even know how I find myself in these situations, but I think that domestic labor is actual labor that needs to have monetary compensation attached to it, because we recognize that cleaning companies are a thing. People need to get paid for their labor. But when a man gets into a relationship with a woman, that responsibility then shifts onto her and any daughter that they have, which would basically equate to child labor, as I was talking about before. And I'm being a bit facetious when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. In order for you guys to get my point, that's child slavery. If we're gonna be willy nilly and call things child when they're not, that is child labor. It looks like Ami is rearing those kids while her mom is agonizing over the second wife, and that is not her responsibility. Either way, Ami is in the store playing mother, and she sees the cuties running around like children and essentially doing the things that she can't do because she has two children to look after. And she ends up following them outside of the store, and then she sees them dancing. They're not very kind to her, and they start throwing shit, which is, not very kind. And the thing is, like, these girls aren't even her friends for real. They never actually become friends. And they start throwing shit, they start jeering, and not very nice, but at the same time, if you're dancing in like an abandoned, they were dancing in like an abandoned place, girl, and you see somebody, watching, I would be a little bit perturbed. Like, why are you watching me? It's a little bit weird. A couple of things I want to talk about with regards to this scene. The first two being the dancing and the outfits, none of which I have an issue with at this point, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, the movie's been running for about 15 minutes, and we've had about 30 seconds of actual dancing. Angelique in the beginning, and now this scene. This cannot be what caused the moral outrage. I know what caused the moral outrage. It'll come later, but the way that you guys were talking about it, I thought it was something really, really bigger than it really is. Y'all calling this child is an insult to children who have been the actual victims of. If you want to talk about the clothing, we can talk about the clothing, because this has me even more confused, because this is the same generation that watched Dance Moms week to week. This is the same generation that watch reruns of Dance Moms week to week. This is the same generation that posts YouTube commentary videos about Dance Moms in 2025. And I never see y'all talk about the costumes. The costumes on Dance Moms are equal to or even more revealing than what we see up till this point in the film, and one actually serves a purpose. There's silent commentary this is one of the things I think could have been done better, but there is silent commentary on the film, on the outfit choices of these girls. And as I said, I do not agree with every directing choice made, because I know that it's going to, somebody in the comments is going to be like, oh my god, I can't believe you're agreeing with this. I don't agree with every single directing choice made, but this, let's be so for real. Let's be so for real. And at this point, during my viewing experience, I'm actually starting to wonder if I have seen the same film as everyone else. I genuinely, and don't get it twisted, okay? I am the person, me, Gabby, that has been shouting into the void about protecting children from since the day that I started this channel. I think one of my first videos was like, leave kids alone, you guys are weird. It was about y'all hating children, and that is also a very interesting caveat to that, because you people are the same people who get on the internet and exclaim how much you hate children, and there are so many different things that you should be rightfully pissed about when it comes to the exploitation of children, but we choose this. Anyways, girl, on another note, I need somebody to tell me what's the significance of the color blue in African culture, because when Ami, if I've called her Amy before at any point before this time, I apologize. Her name is not Amy. Her name is Ami. I also learned from that Khadija video that in the Senegalese culture, she's not Senegalese, she's Gambian, but they have a different pronunciation for their A's. So if I mistakenly call Ami Amy, I blanket apology for that. I will try to filter out my thought, but my brain is running faster than my mouth can keep up, because I don't want this fucking video to be 3 hours long. And I need lip gloss. Actually, hold on. My lips are not glossy enough. Give me 1 second. Okay, I think I was saying something along the lines of me needing somebody to tell me what the significance of the color blue is in African culture, because whenever Ami is at home and around her family, she's literally only wearing blue. And then after that last interaction with the Cuties, she steals a green shirt from her little brother so that she can wear it as a crop top, because it's obviously too small for her. So that's such a kid thing. It's such a kid thing to do. And after that, that's the first time that I actually made the connection that she has been wearing blue for the entirety of this film. And going forward, she only wears vibrant colors around the Cuties. And then when she's at home, she's wearing a blue adjacent color. I Googled it, of course, and what I got was that blue stands for protection and spirituality. And that makes the most sense, even, in terms of the story. But there were other interpretations, and I'm not sure. So I honestly just went with the one that made the most sense. I'm actually looking to hear opinions on this, because in my humble opinion, the curtains are never just blue. They're never just blue. And if you know where that saying is from, then we can be friends. We are then introduced to Ami's cousin, who has just come from Senegal, and his name is Samba. Samba is important for a few reasons. The first being that he has a phone, which Ami then steals, which gives her access to the internet and everything that comes along with it. But we will put that particular plot point to the side for now, and we will come back to it, right? So she's in the living room, and they are all looking at the stuff that Samba brought back for them from Senegal. And Ami gets this really cute blue dress. There you go again, blue. I'm making this stuff up as I go along. But she gets this blue dress, and you can tell that she's looking at the dress. She thinks that the dress is cute, and she likes the dress. Now, I don't know what my good sister thought the dress was for, but her brother also gets an outfit, and he's like, oh, this is so cute. I could wear this to dad's wedding. And baby, that smile dropped off of Ami's face so damn quick. It was almost funny in the execution. I don't know if you guys remember that Hannah Montana scene where she's smiling and then the smile just drops and she goes, what? That was what Ami was giving. She hasn't said it explicitly because Ami actually doesn't talk that much in this film, which is why I think the actress is brilliant. She's conveying all of these emotions off of her facial expressions alone. But at this point, I truly believe that Ami hates that man. She references hating him later on in the film, not exactly saying those explicit words, but if you're paying attention, Ami hates that man. This is one of the first scenes that we get, and we're like, oh, okay. The only point that really confused me at this point was the little brother actually acknowledging the wedding. We never really get a scene where the mom tells the children about the second wife. And I think in that type of situation, you would want to make sure that the children are, well adjusted and settled and know what to expect in this situation and as comfortable as they can be. Which is why I understand, Mariam, I understand what you're going through, but I also have beef with you. Parent your children. At this point, Ami is parenting your children. And with everyone fighting over the empty bedroom, I assumed that the first time that Ami found out about the dad taking a second wife was the scene where she's under the bed. I assumed that was where she heard it for the first time, because but then it confused me because I'm like, how does the little brother know? I can explain it away by saying that he probably heard it in passing. Everybody's talking about it a lot in the house. He probably heard the mom making a phone call to one of her friends, and that's how he found out. But like that, I was like, oh, okay, so everybody knows. But anyways, when I talk about Ami hating that man, this is what I mean. And at the same time, I recognize that it isn't that simple. She becomes uncomfortable not because she stopped liking the dress all of a sudden, but anybody with or without eyes can see that she is associating her father taking another wife to her mother's misery, which then makes her miserable. And then the dress basically becomes the physical embodiment of that misery and discomfort. And then Mariam is there saying, oh my gosh, you will look so beautiful at the wedding, trying to convince Ami that everything is fine while we are all here in a burning building looking around. Because everything is not fine. The other thing that I don't really like about the film is that it's very, very difficult to tell exactly how much time has passed in between events. But I'm just going to say that some time passes and Ami is getting more and more into that phone. Somewhere in there, she's also had a confrontation with the Cuties where they call her weird for spying on them dancing, but they're quite mean about it as well, and also being bullies, truly. And also within that time, I wouldn't say that she's gotten close to Angelica, but they've had some minor interactions with just the two of them to the point where they are, forming a relationship. And at the same time, the rest of the girls are actively trying to bully Ami. And then Angelica is the one to be like, okay, girls, like, it's okay, chill out, back off. But now back to that phone. Because at this point, I'm not sure if Ami wants to be Angelica or if she's so desperate for someone, anybody, anywhere to not like her, but treat her with kindness. Because from what we've seen, the auntie isn't treating her with kindness. She's playing mom to two boys, and her mother isn't really present. And from what we gather, people like Angelica. She's popular, or, equating that to actually liking someone. Ami is 11, so that's what she's doing. So Ami is doing things that Angelica does. And when I say doing things that Angelica does, I mean she's scrolling through Angelica's Instagram and imitating all of the poses that she sees her do, and then she inevitably gets the likes for it. Then we have this next scene that all of the white YouTubers were tripping out over. Let me stop saying white YouTubers all, because it's not just the white YouTubers, but this scene where Ami is in the bathroom in a stall and the Cuties are there, but we can't see them because, once again, this film is told from Ami's perspective. We can only hear their voices. And it's clear from the audio that they are either, one, looking at inappropriate videos or pictures, because one of the girls says that she has seen her brother naked and his parts were not that big in comparison to whatever that they were looking at. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't understand why you guys were so mad about this line, because maybe it's because I'm just not bad-minded like y'all, because in my imagination, there are several non-sexual situations where a girl could see her brother naked, especially if it's a little brother. Like, and based on what we've seen of the film so far, like, it isn't out of the realm of possibility where, for example, somebody like Ami could see her little brother naked. Like, she's that kid's mother, basically the de facto mother. So I really don't, like, I know where you guys were trying to go at, and maybe this is another point indirectly that the directors tried to make, because I didn't view that as a sexual thing. I didn't. Most of the time, when these young girls are talking about sexual situations, I think they do like 2 or 3 times in the film. I'm not viewing it as 11-year-old girls talking about sex, but I'm thinking about 11-year-old girls who have no idea what the fuck they're saying. That is what I'm thinking about. So that scene or that line, before I watched the movie, a few YouTubers were saying this, they're in the bathroom and it's just crude language. And I'm like, have you heard 11-year-olds speak in real fucking life? Because I think you guys just have this like you have this, like you view kids and they are kids at the end of the day, but you're viewing them in such a sanitized light. So I'm here to tell you that yes, 11-year-olds talk about sex. I don't know, like, I don't know if you guys interact with children, and could it have been more tactful in the dialogue? Sure. But this is what the kids are saying. I don't think that's so difficult to understand. This is what the kids are saying. This is what the kids are talking about. The kids are watching. The kids are doing all of the things. So I think you just don't like that this film is a reflection of what the kids are actually doing and saying in their spare time. I work next to a school. I don't work in a school. I work next to a school, and on my lunch break, I have to walk, to go get lunch, and the kids are out by that time, and the kids be saying way worse shit than the shit I have heard them say in this film. I genuinely feel like I'm going mad. I don't know. I genuinely, and I need somebody to spell it out for me. Like, is it just the language? Like, are you upset that she said that? Like, are you thinking of it sexually? Because when she said, I've seen my brother naked, I didn't take it sexually. She's 11. She's 11, and I think the brother, I don't even know who said that line. We don't even know who said it. We don't know who said it. It could be an older brother. It could be a younger brother. If it's Angelica, we've seen that she has like an older brother that's maybe 2 years older than her. So it's not inconceivable if they're in a house together, if they share one bathroom, it's not inconceivable to me that the brother might be in the bathroom and then Angelica opens the door and the brother doesn't have any clothes. It's not outside the realm of possibility for me, and I know that I'm waxing poetic about this stupid thing, but I saw way too many people just like, oh my god, she said that she saw her brother. Let's be for real. Let's be serious. But that aside, I kind of want to delve more into what I think you should have actually taken away from this scene, because here the cuties are also talking about and sex. It is very fucking clear that they do not know what either one of those things are. One girl says it's only if this comes out of your mouth. Another one says that is how babies are made, and I'm sat. Well, not sat because I was lying down on my bed while watching this, and I'm looking at my computer screen with my jaw to the floor because what do you mean? I know that this scene is meant to portray the fact that although they're acting grown and consuming all of this adult content, that they are children. But what do you mean you are 11 going on 12, about to get your period, subtle foreshadowing, and no one has told you what and is? And what makes it even worse, what makes it even worse is I know that this is a complete reflection of reality, because more times than not, young girls aren't sat down and they're not spoken to in this way. They don't have things explained to them. And as I understand wanting to protect their innocence for as long as you can, but honestly it gets to a point where that shit needs to be put to the side, and that's all I have to say on that. Actually, no, it's not all I have to say on that. This is why we need sex ed in schools. Because you can't be 11 years old and saying how babies are made. It just doesn't like work that way. But they're kids, they're not being informed properly, and they're trying to decipher all of this stuff from the internet, and they're educating themselves, but they're not educating themselves properly. And so you have this shit. And in relation to that scene, we have another scene that comes further down in the film when they somehow end up in the woods and they find a used, and they say that you need to use it to make love when you have or cancer. Okay. One of the girls touches it and is literally blowing up a used like a balloon because she is a child who has absolutely no idea what the fuck she is doing, and that is the point. That is the point, is to portray them as innocent because they really don't know what they are doing. The other girls then proceed to yell and scream and saying that she is now diseased and calling her disgusting. And it's so sad because she just lets out a tear, like a singular tear, and she whispers, "I didn't know." Because of course she didn't know. None of these girls know what they're doing. And because no one knows what they're doing, in order to get rid of the diseases that they now claim that she has, they wash her mouth out with soap and water. Wash her mouth out with soap and water. So one day, Ami is at home and Angelica comes over, and Ami literally locks her brother in the bathroom. A stark change from when she was taking care of him 30 minutes ago, because Angelica is here. And Angelica then goes into the unoccupied room that is haunting everybody in this house. And she asks Ami, she's like, okay, who does this room belong to? And Ami's obviously embarrassed and wants nothing to do with that situation. So Ami says, girl, I don't know. I really don't know what's going on here. So over the next couple of minutes, I think we get one of the first positive depictions when it comes to female or girl friendships, especially when you're talking about preteens. They're literally doing girly shit. They're eating snacks. They're jumping on the bed, and they are acting their age. It's also one of the first times that we see Ami actually smile, right? So while they're there chilling, Angelique shows Ami a video of this dance crew that the Cuties are going to compete against in this dance competition. The video, in the video, the girls are twerking, and towards the end, there was this boob that was shown, and as per the excerpt the op-ed that I read, that was penned by Ducouré, that girl was over 18. So if I'm going off of why you guys were so mad, she was able to consent. The first thing that Ami says after Angelica shows her the video is, wow, they've got so many likes. So we see where her head is at, but after that, she and Angelica have struck up, a bit of a friendship. Plus, Ami has a phone, so you know what? They have invited her to film them while they're dancing. We are now 30 minutes into this film, and this is the first close-up that we get of the girls dancing. What can I say? I think most of the dancing in this scene is pretty tame. Maybe I have been conditioned. There's one split that could be perceived as inappropriate, but nothing more inappropriate than what one might see in any dance routine that includes the splits. It's an 11-year-old girl doing a split. An 11-year-old girl doing a split isn't inherently predatory, right? There's also 1 second of a close-up of a girl in shorts that if I were the director, I would not have included because it's brought on way more conversation than it's worth. But I really don't know what to tell you. And I'm afraid to speak the thought that just entered my head, but I'm gonna do it anyways, right? I think that you guys need to do some soul searching And by y'all, I mean the people who say that these girls were exploited during the making of this film. When I watch it, I don't see anything glorifying the things that these girls are doing. And to be quite honest, at this point that I am in the film, 30 minutes in, they haven't done anything but wear crop tops and shorts and follow the dancers that they see, the dances, sorry, that they see popular people do online. They are desperate to grow up and are trying to find an example of femininity and womanhood to mold themselves into as they transition from being little girls to being teenagers, right? We already know what Ami thinks of the expectations of womanhood in her home, which has led her to seek it out somewhere else, and she finds it in these young girls who have the same issues that she has, and she doesn't even know it. And if I could offer a critique of this film, it's kind of a shame that we didn't delve into some of the lives of the cuties a bit more. I understand that the story is being told from Ami's point of view, and Ducouré had a specific vision. It's not self-insert, but she pulls from her own experiences, right? Later on in the film, Angelica would tell Ami that her parents have called her worthless. So Angelica is also looking for approval and trying to get it in some way. And we have all of these things going on in these girls' lives. A friend, somebody that they call a friend or part of their group, they're making fun of her for her weight. They constantly tell her that she needs to lose weight. But none of that was what I wanted to say when I said I was afraid of a thought that I have, because I fear that I'm right. Y'all keep talking about this and that, but I genuinely think that you guys have a problem seeing young girls in shorts. And I don't even necessarily think that it's your fault, because it's not just about the shorts. I'm veering so off track, but I might as well. The video is long enough. We've been talking about the disappearance of tween fashion for a while now. When you are 12 and 13, you do not want to dress how you did when you were 9 and 10. It is only 2 years, but they're literally worlds apart. A 13-year-old doesn't want to hang out with a 10-year-old. They're not trying to do that. And the thing is, there is nothing for them to wear. In terms of fashion, clothing brands have jumped from 9 to 15. We were just talking the other day about how everything is cropped. They don't sell full t-shirts anymore. So why are you surprised when this director, who is trying to make a point, exaggerates the point? And I don't even think the point is exaggerated. The 11-year-olds are wearing crop tops. The 11-year-olds are wearing shorts, and their parents are letting them do it. I feel like I live in the fucking Twilight Zone. I feel like but the thing is, I knew something was wrong. This video wasn't even a thought in my mind at the time, but I knew that something was wrong when Blue Ivy wore that dress, when Blue Ivy Carter wore that dress to the Lion King premiere, and all you fucking weirdos could talk about was the cleavage of a 13-year-old. I don't even know if I could say those words in succession on YouTube, but I just knew, I just knew something was wrong. Wow. A kid can still be a kid in shorts. I'm really, y'all don't want to see what they put the kiddies in here when it's time for carnival, when it's time for the kids, the children's parade. Y'all don't want to see the costumes. We would, oh my god. Y'all would get a conniption. Y'all would keel over and die, because if this is what you're doing for cuties, and once again, I feel like I had to add this disclaimer. Once again, I don't agree with all of the directorial choices. We'll as we go further along, we'll see where I disagree with some of it, but so anyways, we're still at the scene where Ami videotapes them dancing. And after she does that, she's wearing the same green crop top or shirt that she turned into a crop top that she stole from her brother. And she was wearing a hoodie, and then she removes the hoodie, and the girls start making fun of her body. They're telling her she's flat as a board, and they can't tell the difference between her front and her back. And I said, ooh, these are obviously things that these girls are seeing. It's being said probably in person, it's being said online, and they hear these things about women all the time. But why this scene is so important is because of what follows it. Ami is at the mosque again. They are praying. And she's wearing a hijab, and she pulls it like completely over her head. So while the women are in the room praying around her, she's literally watching videos of how can I describe it as? Like lewd videos of women with BBLs dancing and shaking their asses. If you need a more, if you're a visual person, you can go watch the Pour It Up music video by Rihanna, and that'll tell you what's going on. All of this, mind you, is going on, and Mariam is trying to get Ami to talk to her dad on the phone. Well, this is like the next scene right after. And girl, Ami throws that phone out the window. And this is my other issue with this woman. Your daughter is struggling. She is actively acting out, and you know the reason why. And nobody's gonna say anything, but the second she embarrasses you in public, it's gonna be a problem. Her father, in this moment, is the source of all of her anxiety. She told Angelica, she said, I don't want my father to come back. She didn't say that explicitly to her mom, but I'm pretty sure that everybody in the house feels the sentiment, because the mama don't want the husband to come back either. This is so, listen. Anyways, so they get into some shenanigans, which lead one girl to be kicked off of the team. I don't want to go into the shenanigans, but the video is long enough, and you know what? So they are, well, mainly Angelica, they're video chatting to this boy, but they have the camera off. And the boy, he's like an older boy. The boy immediately asks to see some boobs. They're shuffling around a bit, and then the girl actually turns on the camera, and he sees that he's talking to 5 children, which he is, of course, upset about. As I mentioned, Angelica was really the one talking to him, and since she is HBIC, I really shouldn't call a child HBIC, but she's head girl in charge. And Angelica says, you are off this team, girl. You're off this team. Angelica actually starts like a fight. She's actually like a little bit, she has a temper about her. Yeah. And they start looking for another girl to join the team. And then Ami says, hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished. No, but like, hello, I'm here. I know all of the dances. And then since she has been recording them, she's also been practicing their dances. So she does this dance routine for Angelica. And baby, Angelica was not really into it, because she's saying, hey, like, I don't know if the other girls will be okay with this. But she started getting interested when Ami started twerking in front of her. And this is where I start to get uncomfortable. And I start to get uncomfortable because there is this twerk montage where Ami is teaching the rest of the cuties how to twerk. But it's more than, just teaching them how to twerk. She's teaching them gestures of things that she's seen online, of like, like sticking out their tongues, like this, like specific, this thing. I don't even know if I, like that thing that they do online. It was extremely uncomfortable because the girls looked uncomfortable doing it. I'm standing on one foot if I start to... Anyways, the girls looked really, really uncomfortable. There was no, like... I don't want to say natural essence, because that's not... that's not the message that I'm trying to convey. But there was nothing sexual about it. That's what I don't get. If I were the director, I would not have... Because there are shots of them, I don't even know how to describe it. But there are shots that I would not have included if I were the director, only because it takes way more effort when it comes out to put out the fire. I would have probably, if I were the director, just focused on their facial expressions. I saw other comments of people saying, oh, like she should have used a body double for those scenes instead of having, you know, the body shots and the zoom ins and the angles on the girls themselves. But I think using a body double would be a terrible idea, because it would be promoting that idea of over sexualizing of an 11-year-old. Because if you were to use a body double, you would be using a body double of somebody 18 plus. They're not 18 plus, they're 11. So you're sorry. I'm making movies. Hello? Yeah, as I was saying, like, I wouldn't have filmed it in that way. I understand what she was trying to do, because the girls looked awkward. They looked like they were 11-year-olds trying to be adults. Like, they just looked awkward. So in the next scene, we have Ami waking up and receiving a text from Angelica telling her that the audition for the dance competition is at 10. I believe at this point it's like 8:30 in the morning at this point. The same time, her mom and her auntie comes into the room and they're saying, we are going to teach you how to become a woman by cooking for your father's wedding. Like, this is how you become a woman. So here you have Ami at 11 years old slaving over a hot stove for her father's second wedding that everyone is just expecting her to be okay with. 30 minutes ago, Ami literally said that she does not want that man to come back. And my girl has a dance competition to go to. And they got her carrying food on her head to God knows where. So my girl put down that basket and she ran to the audition, but they had already started without her, and she's watching them do the routine through the door, and, you know, in the end, they never actually find out that she was there, because she doesn't want to tell them what she was doing, because she was cooking for her father's wedding. She heads back home, and auntie is just there upset, saying, you know, where have you been? Every other child I've raised have obeyed me. God be with those other children, because I can only imagine what they are going through right now, to be honest. And in the middle of her saying that, the camera pans down and we see that Ami has gotten her period. And nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what happens next. The auntie just starts laughing. No explanation, no, compassion for this young girl who is like literally bleeding through her clothes. She just starts laughing, and you can tell that Ami was embarrassed and ashamed, and the auntie then goes on to this spiel about how when she got her period, she was engaged. So she was a child bride. And they essentially, when she got the period, they wrapped her in white, or they put her in a white gown, and they presented her to the husband, and that was that. That is incredibly sad. And I am inclined to have some compassion for that woman because of what she's been through, but not when she tries to inflict that kind of suffering on someone else. Because right after she says that, she looks Ami dead in her face and says, I wish that God grants you the same fate. You wish for your niece, not her biological niece, but you wish for an 11-year-old who is in some way, shape, or form under your care. You wish for her to become a child bride. And at this point, everybody except the kids can go to hell. When her mama finds out that she got her period, she comes into her room and the only thing she says is, and I quote, "You're a woman now." I wanted to pop that lady in her mouth so freaking bad. And now I'm pissed. Because you can't tell your 11-year-old that she's a woman and then get pissed when she gets caught doing womanly things. You actually called her a grown woman. And secondary to that is nobody's going to talk about what getting your period means, because Amy doesn't know anything. Ami doesn't know anything. Ami thinks that you can get rid of STDs with soap and water. Nobody is gonna sit this 11-year-old girl down and tell her like what getting her period means. And this is like totally jumping in a different like direction, but maybe not, because I think we as women need to decenter our periods. I know why women feel the way that they do about their periods, and I've been saying this, and I'm going to like take a tangent to come back to the point. But even when we talk about trans women and their womanhood, a lot of like TERFs will say, or anti-trans people will say, you don't get a period, you're not a real woman. Okay, periods don't define womanhood. But now on this end, you have people telling an 11-year-old girl that she is now a woman because of a period. I don't get it. But anyways, Ami goes back to school, and the cuties are obviously standoffish with her because of why, she didn't show up to the audition. And she doesn't want to tell them why she didn't show up to the audition, because then she would have to tell them she was cooking for her father's second wedding. Okay, and Ami literally has a full-on panic attack, because she thinks that the girls are... Oh, sorry. My light just went off. 1 second. Oh. And we're back. But I was literally saying that Ami is having a panic attack when she thinks the girls won't speak to her anymore. Because all of the women in her life at this point have emotionally abandoned her. I don't care what anybody else says. She's literally clinging to the only safety net that she knows. Fast forward, and they get the news that they have been accepted into the competition. And I just want to say a quick word on all of the adults in this film, because I've been like mainly talking about like the parents and the dad and the auntie, but all the adults in this film suck. All the adults in this film are not doing their due diligence to protect these kids. So when they get the notification that they have been accepted, it's at a point where they've basically snuck into this building. I guess they're playing tag or whatever, and then security finds them, and they're security's like, where are your parents? We're gonna call your parents. And then they say, we don't have any parents. And that's when they get the notification, and they're like screaming and whatever. And they're like, we're dancers. The security doesn't believe them, and they start twerking and using their bodies to get what they want. So they start twerking, and one of the security guards is looking like he's into it, and the other security guard has to be like, dude, they are children. Like, what is going on here? And that leads me to my other point, because they were doing these same dance moves when they were when they were auditioning for the competition. So adults are the ones who facilitated this. Adults are the reason why this is happening in the first place. But I think that's a point that people just like choose not to take into consideration. It's very clear that all of the adults in this situation are facilitating how these girls are behaving and how they're acting. So now Ami is basically full-on cutie. She does not care about taking care of her siblings. Fun tidbit or a fun thing that I saw, because in the beginning she was portioning out cereal for her little brother. Now he is throwing it all over the table. Her face is in that phone. She's been posting their dances and has been getting likes, and she's even more obsessed with it now. She used to cover up when she went to school, but not anymore. And it took me a little bit to realize it, but the outfit that she wears to school when she's basically, like full cutie, is the same outfit that she saw Angelique dancing in for the first time. So that was like a nice like directorial touch, I think. And she is now so popular because everyone has been watching her dance on Instagram. I guess their rival dance team also goes to their school. And my question is, why do you as an 18-year-old have beef with an 11-year-old? Anyways, they get into a fight, which culminates in Ami being pantsed on the school playground with a bunch of grown hardback children of the age of at least 16, so they should know better, but nobody in this film knows better, so I don't know. And you have all of these people taking pictures of her. This is another scene that people had an issue with because it showed her underwear, and maybe I could give you some leeway if bikinis didn't exist and we didn't see 11-year-olds in bikinis all the time. Another succession of words that I'm not sure I can say on YouTube or not. But anyways, what are you gonna do? The most telling thing about this though is that Ami is not concerned at all about the fact that a picture of her in her underwear is now all over the internet. Why? Because she's been consuming media which says that as a young girl, it's okay for you to be on the internet in your underwear. She's more concerned with the fact that they're all saying that she has little girl underwear and she is a little girl. Now, why would she be upset at that? It isn't as if everyone everywhere and everyone she's talking to and everywhere she looks, including her own fucking mother, has called her a woman in the past 30 minutes. Okay. I've been speaking for entirely too long and I still have to get to like my final thoughts. So I'm going to like speed through the next part. Like it's going to be a lightning round. But let's see if we can like get through, because I think there's like only at this point there's only like 15 minutes left of the film. So Ami, after that entire fiasco, Ami steals from her mother and then goes and buys some adult underwear, which is where the original poster of the French film came from. The mom quickly finds out that she stole the money, and she says absolutely nothing, once again, because she knows why Ami is acting out and she chooses to ignore it. The cousin, Samba, has now found out that Ami has stolen the phone and he wants it back, and Ami sort of makes a show of trying to seduce him so that she can keep the phone, basically using her body to get what she wants, because this is what she's been consuming and this is what the internet says that she has to do. He doesn't go for it, and then she locks herself in the bathroom, and in an attempt to stop everyone from calling her a little girl, she then takes a picture of her hoo-ha and posts it on Instagram to prove to everyone that she is in fact a woman. And she then throws the phone under the door, which makes no sense because Samba would have seen the photo and he would have told her mom, but like that point is like actually like never addressed, right? The next day, she's in class and she walks over to the teacher's desk, and on her way there, a boy smacks her booty, and he then says it's her fault because she's a whore and she posted a nude, after which she stabs him with a pen. And the next scene we see is of her mother, Mariam, smacking her across the face. You mean to tell me you have been steadily ignoring your child for the past hour, and now is when you want to woman up and be a fucking parent? Spare me, please. She's there shouting at Ami, saying, "You've embarrassed me and your father blames me for everything." And I said, Oh, so you're taking out your marital issues on your daughter now. Tell us more, but of course she doesn't. Of course she doesn't. And this scene is where I thought this was unnecessary. I would not have put this into the movie. They are trying to perform some sort of exorcism. That I know that's the Christian term for it, but I think they think that Ami has a demon instead of addressing her mental health issues, which not an anomaly in even the Christian world. They are dousing her in holy water, which I guess leads to her, what I call it, gyrating over the floor. Now we're almost to the end, and this is the first scene, actually the second scene. I didn't talk about the dance scene. I'm going to talk about it at the end. But this is where I'm like, okay, Maimuna, my girl, sister, I don't get this. I don't get what the point of this was. I don't think that this scene added anything to the story. Sure, you know, the exorcism part, I get it. Instead of trying to address the real issues that this little girl has, they're performing this sort of ritual or whatever to cast out whatever demons that they might think that she has. But the whole like the dancing that she was doing, sure, I see the point in it, but I also don't think that it really added anything to the story. So I wouldn't have put it into my film. And also if you wanted to put that into the film, I think the angles have a lot to do with it. I would have probably just used her face and that's it. That I did not like in the film at all actually. And the thing is, it didn't work because Ami went right back to the Cuties the next day, and they're all like, "We don't want to dance with you because you put your private parts online, and people will make fun of us." Then we have somebody coming to the house to, I think it's like he's a guy to exorcise demons, or I don't know what. Are there Muslim priests the equivalent of a priest in Islam? I don't know. But he comes over to their house, and I actually really liked this scene because I guess he does like a prayer on Ami, and he basically tells them there is no demon here, as in there is no demon within this child. And then he tells Mariam that he knows what she's going through with her husband is hard, but that God does not impose on women more than they can bear. I don't agree with that, but anyways, and then he goes on to say, if your burden is too heavy, you have the right to leave this marriage. And thank goodness somebody had the guts to say it, because up until this point, like, we have seen that she's suffering. And according to Auntie, she has to take this suffering because it is her duty. It is the path that God has put before her. But we hear somebody else tell her, listen, you don't have to do this. And I think that was pretty important for Ami to hear as well, to hear this man say, listen, like, you have a choice and you don't have to be in this situation. And I understand that is something that is easier said than done, but at least somebody had to say it to Mariam. And as for the next parts, I'm going to like speed through it like really, really quickly. So Ami goes to the competition and they don't know that she's coming. The girl that she replaced is now back onto the team, and passing through, she literally pushes the girl into a lake or water. The girl can't swim. Like, as soon as she did that, I said, but Ami, what if this girl can't swim? I thought she was gonna drown, but the girl, you know, hangs on to like a buoy or something. And Ami goes to the competition. They're obviously not happy to see her, but they don't have a choice because the other girl she almost drowned. And then they go on to the stage and they do this routine. And this routine is uncomfortable. It is clear, especially by the reactions of the audience, that they recognize that these are kids and they should not be doing this. And it's like 2 or 3 minutes of pure, like, the music is playing, but like it's almost like pure silence. You can see everybody's faces in the audience, like, what the hell are these kids doing? I don't know why the judges look confused, because they auditioned this same routine, like and yeah, it's uncomfortable. I wouldn't have done all of the shots in there, but like at the same time, this very much looked like a Toddlers and Tiaras or Dance Moms routine. Their outfits, I don't think were like the costumes. I've seen worse costumes on Dance Moms again, and yeah, and then mid or like end performance, Ami realizes that this is not something that she wants to be doing, and you know, this isn't her, and she can say no, and then she runs off stage. She goes home, and Auntie is basically calling her a whore, and for the first time, Mariam stands up for her daughter. She says, Ami, you do not have to go to this wedding if you do not want to go to this wedding. So in the end, we have Mariam going to the wedding and Ami going outside and doing some jump rope, basically, I guess, embracing her childhood. And she's wearing red. She's wearing a color, and she looks happy and she's smiling. And that is the end of the film. As I stated in the beginning, I do not agree with all of it. I do not agree with everything, like some of the directorial choices. I think in order to, how do I say, quiet all of the noise around it, I don't think some of the angles that were used should have been used. And I think that there were choices that I would have made differently. But to start by calling this film child, y'all truly do not know what child is. I think that's, as I mentioned before, that's an insult to people who have been victims of. A few points that I want to hit because I think I've spoken enough. I've given a lot of like my opinions on the scenes and the stories and whatnot. Few points that I want to hit before my camera dies because it's been flashing red for the past 30 minutes. So I hope I can make it through. If I don't, I'll just like record a voiceover on my computer. One, people saying that the girls are so young and they're not allowed to watch a movie that they've acted in, and so that means it's bad. Where have you people been? Kids act in movies that they're not allowed to see all the time. This is not something new. Young kids act in movies that they're not allowed, that they can't go to the theater to view. Number one. Number two, saying that this film is basically like a playground for. Maybe I'm the only person who watched Law and Order SVU Special Victims Unit. Don't need children to twerk to be. And this is the same, tangent to come back to the point again. This is the same, or to me, it's in the same argument as saying that trans people should not be allowed into bathrooms that match their gender identity because a man could pretend that he is a woman and then go into a bathroom and rape a woman. You guys, rapists are gonna. I know we like to come up with all of these special circumstances and all of these different things. If a man wants to rape you, he's not gonna pretend to be a woman to go into a bathroom to you. I'm very, very sorry, but the world does not work like that. Men, because they want you. Men will find area, opportunity, time, and space to do whatever they want to do. Pedophiles are going to do that exact. There could have been absolutely no dancing in this film, and a pedophile would have still enjoyed it. Once again, am I the only person who watched SVU Law and Order, the SVU Special Victims Unit? The scene where Ami and Angelica were lying down in bed and, like talking to each other, having some, girl time, a will find that attractive. I don't know what, and mind you, I do not want to get into the brain of a. But if we're being serious, if we want to maintain an air of seriousness, that and I also find like this is a way of victim blaming. It's very much saying, if you were not dancing, if you were not doing that, then they would not have done this. It doesn't work like that. Those are pedophiles and they're turned on by children. I'm sorry. They are turned on by children doing absolutely nothing. They are turned by children acting like children. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. So that's number 2. Number 3, saying why would the parents allow these girls to be exploited, and in a few years these girls are going to look back and they're going to hate it. I actually don't know that. What I would love to see is an interview with these girls. I think that was like 5 years ago. So what are they now? 16, 17? I would like to see an interview with these girls to see what their experiences were and how they felt being on the set of that film. Because according to Maimuna, she went to the French agency, the child support agencies, these people who are supposed to know about this. She said that she spoke to these girls, and these are things that they already see and they already experience in their day-to-day lives. So if this film makes you uncomfortable, think about what it feels like to be 11 and experiencing this now. When I was 11, I knew what I was doing. But also, I was 11... 26, 15? I was 11, 15 years ago. The 11-year-olds then and the 11-year-olds now are two like different things. So I know what children experience because I work with kids. I talk to kids all of the time. And I talk to kids. I do a program called I talk to kids about sex and relationships, and this is what kids are seeing. I saw another YouTuber call this shock value. This is not shock value. This is what young girls are experiencing. This is it. This is it. Would I have made different directorial choices? Yes. Yes, I would have. But at the end of the day, the message of the film it doesn't just explode because there are scenes in it that I would have done differently and scenes in it that I didn't like. And I would like to hear from those girls, you know. Also, there was a child psychiatrist on set. I have seen kids in movies do worse things. I don't know. And then the other argument saying you should have had 18-year-olds play the kids. You guys don't care about these issues when the 18-year-olds play the kids. This was the same conversation with Euphoria. This was the same conversation. When we're talking about Euphoria, you guys are saying kids are not actually doing that in schools. Kids don't do drugs in schools. The kids are doing drugs in schools. The teacher said that the kids were doing drugs in school. But y'all could look past that because it was Zendaya. Zendaya is over 18. You guys would not care about it if these actors were 18 plus. You just would not have. And then I think I had one more point to address, but I can't remember. This is what I'm going to say. People saying that this movie could have worked better as a documentary. Maybe you're right. Maybe you are right. But this also takes me back to my Lolita video and the argument that I was making in that. I think all of the movies for Lolita have been terribly done. And in that, I said, you can't make a movie about Lolita because it's never going to accurately depict the story. You know, it's you just cannot have that play out on screen. You cannot have, I think, how old was Lolita in the books? 12, 13? And all of the actresses have been older than that. They look older. They don't look like. And you know what? Is it really better to have an older actress that looks like a child? Is it really better? I don't know. That would still be playing into, based on your guys' logic, it would still be playing into that thing. So is it better? I don't know. And I guess that's my take on Cuties. Is it a film that I will watch ever again? No. I think if you've seen it once, there's no need to put yourself through that again. And also, just to reiterate, it is a film for adults. It's not a film for kids. It's meant to shed a light onto adults as to the things that children are going through in today's society and to basically look out for your children. That's what it's saying. It's not meant for kids to watch. It isn't. And yeah, that's what I have to say. If you don't share my opinion, that's fine. But I do think, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we can like something and critique it at the same time. I would not make all of those same choices. But yeah. I've spoken for way too long. That was the video for today. Thank you for watching. It is 5 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm going to try to edit this to get it up for tomorrow, but knowing me, it won't be. So you'll see this when you see it. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. All right. Bye.